Hello. In this video, we'll be talking about more of the basic tools in Adobe Photoshop. So last video we talked about brushes, and there's a lot of things we can do still with brushes here that I'll be showcasing, but I won't be talking about the brush tool settings in this video anymore. So just please remember to refer back to those if you need those. All right. So going down, again, we jumped ahead to the brush tool, which was right here, or hitting the B key. Now we're going to go down the list a little bit more, skipping some things, but coming back to them when they apply, is the Marquee tool. Now the Marquee tool is a selection tool. It's used for various things, selecting things, obviously is one of them, so you can grab them and move them or manipulate them in some way. The other thing you can use them for, which is what I'll be showing in this video, is using them as masks or ways to fill things in. So the default marquee tool here is the rectangular marquee tool. And you can see if you hover over it, it gives a little tooltip, animated tooltip, which is really nice. And it says the M key in parentheses there. That shows you the quick key already. So the M key, let's just switch to this tool. And how this works, it's a click and drag. So if I click and hold and drag, or if you're drawing with a tablet or a monitor, you can click and push down with your pen and hold it down and draw out square rectangular type shapes. And you get little marquee selections, or the marching ants as some people call them, of this selection here. And if I go ahead and click and hold somewhere else and draw again, it'll automatically get rid of the other one. So this marquee selection can be used to select things that might have existed there. I don't have anything. Or we can use them in conjunction with other tools to paint inside them. So for example, if I were to come in here and switch back and forth, between this and my brush tool, so marquee is M, brush is B, make my brush bigger by using brackets. Come in here and paint on this. You can see we can paint. I gotta turn up my opacity. You can see we can paint. Oh, I paint not white. We can paint on this and get a gradient-like shape here by using this marquee selection in here. So you can see, gradiating out. I'm using the marquee to contain this. Now, again, if I hit the M key and draw somewhere else, you can see it replaces it. But let's say you don't want it at all. Let's say you're done with the marquee tool, or you want to move on to something else. Control D as deselect. And again, a lot of these commands are up here. I just don't use them. So if I come up here to select, deselect is in here somewhere. There it is, second one on the list. Control D. If you're a menu person, there you go. So Control D is deselect. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect here. Control D. And then again, M key is the marquee, and we can draw. Now you can add and take away from this selection by using one of two commands on your, actually multiples, on your keyboard when you draw. So right now, if I were doing nothing, I just click and draw, it draws a new one. If I hold down Shift before I start drawing, you'll see that the icon changes slightly and it has a little plus icon next to that crosshair. This will let you add to the marquee selection. So if I draw over here, it doesn't get rid of the old one, it just adds to the new one. So if I'm holding down Shift, I'm just holding it down, you hit add to this selection. If I hold down Alt, I can take away from the selection. So anything it touches will take away. So you can see I can come in here and take away. If you hold down Shift and Alt, it's an intersection, which you can draw, and you can see anything that of the selection that's in the selection will stay selected. It basically cuts away selections outside the selection kind of thing. And I'm going to undo that with Control Z. So again, Alt and Shift. You can see you can select within a selection. So I'm cutting away anything that's outside this selection. Let's do that. All right, so again, Control Z. So again, to recap, Shift to add, Alt to take away, Alt and Shift to do intersections. All right, so with that, I can come in here and I can paint on this. And you can see we can paint inside our selection. And again, if you want to deselect something, Control D. All right. Now, if you need to select everything on your screen, there's a quick key for this already. Sometimes it does that thinking. But if you hit Control A, which is select all. Again, if we come up here, you can see select menu, all. If you hit Control A, select everything in your screen. So sometimes instead of erasing like I was doing in the previous lecture, I would erase a screen by going Control A and then hitting the delete key if we were on multiple layers, but we're not. So in this case, I'm going to hit the X key, which will toggle my foreground and background color. And here's a new one for you. Again, if you're a huge fan of my quick keys, Shift backspace or Shift delete on a Mac is the fill command. And the fill command will bring up a dialog that looks something like this. I can tell you right now that yours is probably a different content on your settings. Yours is probably set to content aware. But what you can do is you can click on this little downward chevron and change this to be foreground or background color, which I advise that you guys do, especially if you're going to be doing digital painting. Most likely you're going to be picking either foreground or background color and you're going to stick to it. In my case, I just keep it on foreground color. And my foreground color happens to be white, and hit OK. You can see it fills that entire area with white. Now, I don't have to do this by the entire area either. Again, right now Control A, select it all. I'm going to Control D, Delta, Control D to deselect. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the M key back to my marquee. Lots of quick keys, but it really is the only way to work. M, draw a marquee. And if I wanted to, I could switch this to a different color. Say, maybe make this black. And then, because I just hit the X key to do that. And then I fill this by hitting Shift Delete. Hit OK. And you can see we can fill marquee selections too. So already we can brush in a marquee selection and we can use a marquee selection as a fill mechanic or method as well. And if I wanted to, I can come in here, make a marquee. Same results. Switch my color to white by hitting the X key. Fill, do a selection. Fill by hitting Shift backspace. Enter. So again, it's a lot of steps. But once you start doing it, it becomes kind of second nature. You got to practice it. And again, if you miss a few steps, feel free to rewind and watch those from the beginning. However, we're going to go ahead and move on. What else can you do with the marquee tool? Well, I'm going to delete these by filling over them. We can have different kinds of marquees as well. And I kind of skipped over this in the brush tool. But anywhere where you see like a downward pointing like arrow thing, I'm not sure what to call that, little arrow thing, that means there's other tools here. And again, if I click and hold, you can see that it opens up a different kinds of marquee tools. And this is true for all of them. The brush tool had this as well, but I skipped over for that one. The marquee tool by default is the rectangular marquee tool, and you see it has an M next to it. That's a quick key. It also has an elliptical marquee tool, which has an M next to it, which is also a quick key, but you're like, how can it have the exact same quick key? I'll come back to that later. It also has a single row marquee tool and the single column marquee tool, which don't have M's to it. So anything that has a letter to it means it can be switched between using another quick key. And in this case, it's the same quick key that whatever is the tool. So again, the tool for the marquee is the M key. I can draw with the M key, it switches that tool. But if I hit Shift M, I can switch the tool. I don't actually, it selects it, but I switch it from the rectangular to the elliptical. And if I do it again, it does not, in this case, go to the row or the column because they're just not popular enough to warrant it, so they don't even bother switching. They're there. If you really need them, you can go up and get them by hand, but it'll only go through back and forth between the ones denoted here. So again, it's just going to be, in this case, rectangular marquee and elliptical marquee over and over and over again. So Shift M switches back to rectangular, and it just cycles through. Shift M, rectangular, Shift M, rectangular, elliptical, rectangular, elliptical, and so on. So elliptical, as its name says, it's elliptical shaped marquees. Everything that I mentioned on the previous marquee the rectangular one works for the elliptical one. So I can draw them out. Here we go. You can see, draw them out. I'm just clicking and holding. If I hold down Shift, I can add to the selection. If I hold down Alt, I can take away from the selection, and so on. And the intersection still works. And there's nothing stopping me going back and forth. So if I hit Shift M to switch to a rectangular marquee, I can hold down Shift once I'm in the rectangular marquee, hold down Shift and add to this selection. Add to the selection. So I can mix and match these. Not a big deal. Shift M to switch back to elliptical. Hold down Alt. You can see I can take away from this. And I have no idea what this is, but if I do a quick switch my color to black and do a quick fill on this, Shift backspace, foreground color fill, okay. You can see we make weird shapes. And again, Control D to deselect. So a lot of quick keys got thrown at you right there. Again, and it's the thing with Photoshop is the nuances of which buttons you use in conjunction with those things. So if you have to watch this video a couple of extra times to get through, to understand, grasp all the minutia of the quick keys, then yeah, take some time to do that. What else can you do with the marquees? Yeah, we're not even done with them yet. What else can you do with the marquees? And this is a big challenge on quick keys here. Both true for both the rectangular and the elliptical marquee tool. If I draw here, you're drawing corner to corner. Wherever I start clicking is one corner. Wherever I end clicking, my drag is the other corner. However, if I hold down Alt, the Alt key before I start drawing, that's crucial. It will draw from the center. This is true for rectangular marquees as well. As opposed to, if I commit this and I hold down Alt before I start do the new one, you can see I take away. So like, wait a minute, how do I do this? This one draws from the center. How do I draw from the center on something if I want to take away? And I'll get to that later. But Alt will draw from the center. We can also hold down Shift before we start drawing to draw perfect circles. Again, that was the same as add, so again, I'm just doing this before I start adding the second one. This is the first one only. And I can use those together and hold down Alt and Shift. So I'm holding down Alt and Shift, and I can draw from the center with perfect circles. And again, you can do this with the rectangular and make perfect squares in this case. All right. So if I let go, make a perfect circle like that. And you're like, okay, well, I want to take away from this, but I want to be perfect circles like this as well. How do I do that? Well, Photoshop has a weird way of doing this. And again, this is a little tricky, but again, once you get used to it, I think it's kind of second nature. But what you do is you hold down Alt and you start clicking and dragging. And what you do is you let go of that button, Alt, in this case Alt, but don't let go of the mouse or your pen down. Just let go of Alt. Let go of Alt, then re-push Alt, and it turns it into a perfect circle. Or sorry, it draws from the center. And the same thing in this case, I hold down Shift and after I start drawing, and it goes to a perfect circle. So here we go, we get rid of that. So to repeat that, if I use Alt and Shift on the very first one, I can do it right off the bat and do perfect circles drawing from the center. So again, Alt is drawing from the center, Shift is perfect circles. Everything else afterwards, if I wanted to take away or add to this example, Alt is going to take away if I start drawing, and Shift is going to add, just like we talked at the beginning of the video. But if you want to take away, and you want a perfect circle or something, or drawing from the center, again, hold on Alt, start the minus operation, let go of Alt, and then you can once you've started minusing it, you can Alt and Shift and take away. Now you can see how this can be tricky, like especially if you wanted it in a certain area. So that leads me to one more key for you to memorize on this. Okay, so if I hold down Alt and Shift in drawing, there's one last one that you can do. So Alt, center, Shift is perfect circles, The last one is the Spacebar key. So yes, I am holding down Alt, Shift, and Spacebar. I can move, while holding down Spacebar, I can move a selection. When I let go of Spacebar, it continues to manipulate the selection, like as such. So again, I'm holding down the Spacebar when I want to move it. Let go of Spacebar. I'm now manipulating the size of the selection. So if I let go now of everything, and select it, make a selection. So let's say I want to make a ring or a donut here. I hold down Alt, I'm going to minus from the beginning. So as soon as I start minusing, that's done. I can let go of Alt now. Once you start, as long as I'm holding down the mouse or the pen to the paper, I can let go of Alt and it's still in minus mode. It won't leave minus mode. Now I can come back and hit Alt to go from the center, Shift to go from perfect circles, and obviously I'm off, and it's very hard to get it to perfect, so I hold on the space bar to move the selection. In this case I'm just going to eyeball it, but I'm just going to go for the center and get something like that. That's like the challenge right there. If you can make a donut with the selection tools and you can do it with no problems, then you've mastered all the weird quick keys of Photoshop's Marquee Selection. Again, a little tricky, but once you understand it, it'll help speed up the process greatly on your work. And I'm just for the last thing, I'm going to switch the color to black, do Shift Backspace to fill my foreground color, and there you go. You can see I have a perfect donut type shape now. So there we go. I'm going to hold down Shift and then hold down Spacebar. You can see moving the selection. And fill. And then, I don't know, we can do a little person face there. So you can see draw a little donut. I did little marquee selections and you filled them around. So again, feel free to refer back to the video. This one is a little trickier. Try to get those quick keys. Essentially, Alt's take away, as well as going from center. Shift is add, but also perfect squares and circles. And then, of course, there's when you do them, which is tricky. So give that a shot. See if you can make a little person like I did here. And then when you got that down, feel free to move on to the next video. Until then, see you guys next time.